Hi everybody, welcome back to Bentley House. I'm Ara, and some of you may know that we've been doing a furniture drive for Dollhouses for kids battling cancer. Well, some of the furniture I received needed a little bit of a touch-up, so for today's video I'm going to be showing you 5 easy DIY ways that you can fix up furniture and give it some new life. Now these were sent to me, and these are just randomly broken, so I'm showing you the ways that I'm fixing these in particular. If you have any other questions about fixing dollhouse furniture, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Also, if you have any other suggestions on how things like this might be fixed, leave that in the comments as well, because I know a lot of people love to read through the comments and your ideas might be helpful to them. Now, this whole time getting ready for this, all I could think about was that scene from Toy Story 2, the really satisfying scene with the old guy who comes in with the tool chest, and he's gonna come in and fix Woody. And can we just appreciate this little chair and the little hat rack? It's amazing. But I really love this scene, and that's all I could think about while I was working on these. But anyway, let's get started. We are going to do the easiest fix first. Now the first fix is going to be gluing a piece that we still have. And one of the things that I most often see when people are doing this is they try to re-glue it with hot glue. And that may just be like the first thing people think of, but you really don't want to put hot glue onto a piece of dollhouse furniture because it's very chunky and it's not going to lay flat. Now because I'm gluing wood to wood, I want to use wood glue. This glue gets into the fibers of the wood and it does a really good job of reattaching the pieces together. So what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I'm putting the piece as close to its original spot as possible, and then I'm going to lay it flat, making sure that the leg is in the correct position, and then put something heavy on top of it for it to dry. Once it's dry, if I feel like I want to add a little bit more wood glue around the outside, I can. I just want to make sure I don't make it too chunky so it doesn't stick out. And that is how I do a simple repair with glue. Now these two pieces came to me and they didn't have the pieces, so I'm going to have to recreate these pieces. So the second way to fix dollhouse furniture is to recreate missing pieces. I don't have a square dowel that's the right size for these legs. I could go out and search for one, but instead I have this piece of I think this is basswood, and I am going to glue it together, and then later I'm going to cut it down to size. So I'm using wood glue because again I'm doing wood to wood, so this is going to hold together really well. And I have to make 2 of these because I have 2 chairs, and I want to make sure and clamp them together while they are drying. And then once these have dried, I'm going to be able to use them to create the correct shape I need for the foot of the 2 chairs. Now if you're going to take this approach, one thing you really want to do is pay attention to the existing architecture of the chair. You want to look at the legs that are still there and try and get the piece that you're making to match those pieces. Now right now I'm cutting it to the correct size, and then I'm going to sand the top of it so that it's flat, so when I glue it on it sits flush against the bottom of the chair. And now looking at the existing legs, they are tapered off. So what I'm going to do is start sanding the legs down so that they start getting a taper that matches the taper that's on the other 3 legs. This can be a time-consuming process. You can also cut it down with an X-Acto knife or with machinery if you're comfortable with that, but sanding it is a surefire way to keep your fingers protected and go slowly so you don't overdo it. Once I'm done with that, I'm just going to take my wood glue again and then glue it on there and make sure that it sits flat and that all the legs are the same size. If you find that it's not, you can just go ahead and sand down the little foot of the piece you just made until it is the correct height. So here are the two pieces for those chairs, and in the future I'm going to show you how to paint those. But I also have this piece of furniture that's missing handles, and this is a little bit of an easier fix. I didn't have a dowel rod that was the right size. I didn't seem to have any of the wood pieces that would match these pieces, but that's okay because I'm showing you how you can adjust what you do have to work. So what I did is I just took some sandpaper and I sanded down the edges of this square dowel, and I'm checking to make sure that the piece will fit into the holes, and then I'm going to cut them to the right size. This is my Easy Cutter wood cutter thing, so if you type in Easy Cutter craft tool, you can find that if you're interested in that piece. After I've rounded off the top of both of those pieces, I'm going to dry fit them into the holes and make sure that they are a good fit and I like how they match the other handles, and then I'm going to glue those in as well. One of the more difficult things about fixing up dollhouse furniture is matching the existing paint. It does take a little bit of patience to go back and forth mixing paints, a little bit of color theory. Of course, you do always have the option that you can just repaint the entire thing, but what I wanted to do was restore these pieces back to their original look, so I had to go through very carefully and mix the paint. Once I was happy with that paint color, I went in and I mixed it with a little bit of water because the original pieces are stained. You can see the wood grain through the color. I just added a little bit of water and I started out by putting a thin coat, and you can always add more coats if you want to. So I'm adding just a little bit of water in, and you will see with this first chair it tends to have a little bit of a darker stain coat. So I have some of the dark brown off to the side, and you will see me go back and forth between the orange brown color and the dark brown to try and match the original stain effects. And this is just a really fun technique to try and practice. If you do have a piece of furniture that you want to fix up, it could be a fun thing to work on and try and hone your color matching skills. This other chair was a little bit different. It was a little bit lighter, so I had to custom paint each piece according to how it looked. Now, because it has a glossy finish on the original pieces, I needed to get out my polyacrylic gloss finish, and I'm just going to paint over any of those areas where I added on a piece so that I have a glossy finish that matches the original. People will be able to tell extremely easily if you do not match the finish. They will be able to pick out the piece that you replaced. But if you do match that finish, it does blend in a little bit more easily. This next piece is a unique fixer-upper because it has a broken hinge. It's supposed to be a table that can fold up. It's like a little tea cart, and the hinge lost its pin on one side, so I'm going to be replacing the pin so that I can fix the table part. And then it does have a handle that has come off on one side, and luckily that's going to be a pretty easy glue fix like I did on the very first piece. Again, I'll be using wood glue for that. So for the hinges, I needed to find a wire piece that I felt would fit easily into the hinge. So I got out, I have this kind of bucket of wire, and I was looking through trying to find one that I felt was the best fit for the hinges. And once I found it, I'm going to cut off a piece and very carefully thread it through the hinge. This takes a little bit of finesse, and also if your wire is like in a round, like curled around, you're going to have to straighten it out. But honestly, this was a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be, and I was really happy with the fix. Now, if you have a different type of a hinge break where the metal part of the hinge has actually come off of the dollhouse piece, you may have to find a replacement hinge those can be found most of the time on websites that sell dollhouse furniture. Most likely they will also sell pieces like hinges and doorknobs and little findings like that. So you may have to do a little research, but if you still have both parts of the hinge attached, you should be able to fix it fairly easily with this method. Now I'm just bending down the sides and I'm gonna clip them off. The other hinge looks like it's just floating in the hinge piece, or the other pin looks like it's just floating, but I decided to go ahead and bend down the sides so I was sure that it wasn't going to be coming out again ever. And then a simple wood glue fix for the handle, and that one is done. Now this piece was an interesting challenge because it obviously is missing one of the faucets, and so my first thought was that I was going to duplicate the faucet. So I went and got my mold putty, and you just mix those pieces together, and then I made a mold around the existing faucet. Because it was glued in fairly well, I didn't want to remove it. So if you have a piece of furniture that is missing a part and you want to duplicate it, you can make a mold on a piece of furniture and then try to duplicate it with clay or resin. I ended up not using this method. I didn't really like how the mold came out. I think the faucet was a little bit too deep for it to be successful, but this is something you can keep in mind for future fixes. It may work for you. Instead, I decided to remove the existing piece and make a new piece where I would have two pieces that matched. So to make the faucets for this guy, I took a Q-tip and I cut it in half and put it into some water to soak. This is because I'm going to be bending it. If you don't soak the Q-tip in water, it will not bend for you. It'll just break wherever you want it to bend. Just gonna let that soak for 1 to 2 minutes, no longer than that, or it'll start to unravel. And then I'm going to take a curved surface like the back of a paintbrush, and I'm going to curve the Q-tip over the back of it, just to create that faucet look where it has like the head of the faucet bending over. And I'm gonna try to make my two pieces match as much as possible. Once those have dried, I'm going to glue them into the sink. And this is a very, very simple faucet. There's definitely tutorials out there where you can find more complicated ones to create, but this is the ones I decided to go with to make it a pretty quick and easy fix. Now I'm using tacky glue for this instead of wood glue because we're gluing some paper products into porcelain, and I didn't really think wood glue would really have any benefits for that, and so I just went ahead and used regular tacky glue. Now this is a flower decorating punch, and I thought I could use the little flower shapes to be kind of like a handle for the top of the faucet. So I'm layering two flowers on top of each other, and then it also has these little dots that it punches out, and so I'm going to layer a dot on top of that to kind of mimic the screw that you would see inside of a handle. And I like how it turned out. It does kind of look a little bit farmhousey, I think, but of course you can look up different ways to make faucets. This is just a really, really simple way. And then I'm going to paint it with a base coat of gray and then put some silver on top of that to make it look like metal. The original one was gold, but I prefer silver. Just in my own personal, I prefer silver finishes on my faucets and stuff, and so my go-to is always silver. But now I have a matching set of faucets on this sink, and that piece is done. This next piece had quite a bit of damage, so this repair is a remove and rebuild, and so it's a rocking crib is what it is, and I only have one of the rocking pieces, and the rest of the pieces look like they have broken at various places, so it's not like I can just replace the rocking part. What I'm going to need to do is take off the other legs that have broken, and I'm finding a point where I feel like I can rebuild from. So I want to take the legs off as close as I can to the side wood on the crib, and then I'm going to use sandpaper to sand it as flat as possible because I am going to be using some craft wood to build a frame around the bottom. So this is just that same wood that I used to create the legs for the chairs, and I'm going to go around and make a frame. I'm just going to mark out where I need the cuts to be, cut them with my easy cutter. Then I'm going to be using wood glue again because I'm gluing up from wood to wood, and I'm going to carefully go around and frame out the entire crib. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to have a place to glue on some new legs. I'm not going to make it a rocker again, but I do want it to stand up. It's too short to sit flat on the ground, but I do want a place to attach legs where I feel like they will be supported. And thankfully, because this crib is the same color as the other two pieces, I already have the paint mixed up, so I don't have to worry about the wood being a different color from the original. So now I have these two dowels. I'm going to cut them in half each with my easy cutter, and those are going to become the legs. I'm making super simple legs, but if you're fixing up a piece of furniture, you can get as detailed as you want. I know a lot of people will use stair railings, and those turn out really nice because usually they're very ornate. I didn't have any on hand, I just had these dowels, but I do think it worked in the end. Once I have all the dowels cut and how I like them, I'm just going to use wood glue to glue them in, and I'm making sure that everywhere that the two pieces of wood touch definitely has glue so it has the strongest grip possible, so this miniature will last as long as possible. And now I'm going to take some of that same paint. Again, I'm watering it down with just a little bit of water so that it has the same effect as the original stain of the original piece. And I'm going to go around, and every single surface that I added on, I need to add the paint. And also, this is a glossy finish, so I want to use that same polyacrylic and go around and cover anything that I added on. And as you can see, I've gone up a little bit up the side of the piece so that it does have that, it kind of fades into the old finish a little bit. So here are the final pieces, all fixed up.
It's amazing. You're a genius. He's just like new.
I am going to be packing these guys up to go with the rest of the donations for Dollhouses for Kids Battling Cancer. If you haven't seen that video, it's going to be uploaded probably around the same time that this video is uploaded. I will leave a link in the description box below if you want to see what was donated. But I'm really excited with how these turned out. I hope it's helpful to you if you have any broken pieces of dollhouse furniture. Also, I know dollhouse furniture can be expensive, so if you have that opportunity to find a big box of it on Craigslist or on eBay, you will probably get some pieces that are broken or coming off, or you need to replace existing parts. And so I hope this video is helpful, at least in giving you some ideas on how you can repair those pieces and use them in your projects. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you again for all the donations. Thank you for you guys being a part of this whole thing with Dollhouses for Kids Battling Cancer. It's been amazing. You guys are an amazing group of people, and I love you all, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.